And a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful day here in the Willamette Valley of Oregon for another live episode of Conversations with Michael. Let's begin here today by taking a deep breath. Very good. You know, conscious breathing, I've discovered is such a great tool. It always helps to shift our energy in actually a subtle but profound way, simply by acknowledging all the energy that is in service to your human self. So when we do come together every month like this, we do so to, yes, share the latest energy updates from Michael, that's important, but also to simply act as supports to each other, with the deepest respect for our fellow creators, our fellow masters, who, like us, chose to reclaim our freedom inside of this human experience, which can be exhilarating at times, but also really intense. We know we'd get quite a few more YouTube clicks if we called these monthly gatherings predictions. But that's a little tricky because nothing is constant. Creation is always changing, always moving in different directions. What is true in this now moment can change in an instant. So, with Michael's perspective, he can certainly highlight some potentials, and he does, at least as that relates to embracing a human soul experience and its impact on the collective consciousness on this planet during the most, intense transition this planet has ever experienced, impacting it in such a way that it can be a little frightening. It can be a little unsettling for our human self. So to help relieve some of those underlying doubts and concerns, it's really important to refresh your focus throughout your day and to place it on your inner reality. It's really important if you want to stay informed and want to be able to trust the source of information you're receiving. It's really important to allow your soul to speak directly to your human self, for the most part, by using the language of the heart. For those of you that are new to our work, your soul is actually communicating with you all the time, but energetically. So it's really important because it's so easy to get distracted by all the drama. It's really easy to get pulled into energies that are not yours. Sometimes we get stuck in our mind, which makes it hard for the magical child inside of us just to be able to breathe. But despite what is going on all around us, this is also the most incredible time to be a human being. Is it not? Is it not? As we allow the presence of our soul to now be more present than ever before. That choice opens your heart to new possibilities, to new opportunities, such as embracing a sovereign heart, which allows more of your natural intuitive abilities to now come to the forefront, allowing us to perceive the human experience from a very different vantage point. One that is filled with compassion, insight, and a love for self that is incredibly rare. So, let's not waste any time and get right into it. But first, we invite all of you to once again take that deep breath. And just notice as best that you can all the energies that are here today. Both from my oversoul, Michael, or Michael, if you prefer. And of course, that part of him that is also known as the Archangel Michael. There have been countless messengers for Michael over many lifetimes. And if you Google his name, some of them have proclaimed that he represents God's voice as one of the most powerful beings in all of existence, whose service to the light of creation is all about doing battle with the dark. But Michael's never introduced himself to me in that manner, which is a good thing, because I wouldn't have agreed to do this with him if he had. His message has always been to embrace your soul as being equal to any other being, including him. So when we invite you to feel all the energies that help to support these monthly updates, well then of course we want to thank all of you for freely sharing your own soul's radiance as a soul being and as a human being who is allowing your own soul to now play a part in your life. Our joy, our passion is to simply serve your freedom. To simply serve your freedom. The freedom to be the source of your own thoughts. Because most of what you're listening to inside your head never originated from your soul. The freedom to experience a healthy body, the freedom to have an abundance of support in your life by relying from your human perspective on a system of support that won't cost you a penny, but it will cost you your pride. By receiving from your soul a continuous flow of free energy that will manifest in whatever form you allow it to, in service to this human soul experience. And of course, the freedom to now love yourself, but in a new way, to love yourself just as you are, without any guilt or any shame you might have inherited from others. This freedom represents a true soul-filled experience, and it is our joy to serve it. Over all these years, this was never about me or Michael. This has always been about you and your own relationship to your divinity. So we get it. We know it would be easier to own this type of freedom if we weren't living alongside a state of consciousness that seems so hell-bent on doing battle with everything that is the opposite of itself. Our human history is filled with countless stories that are based on those very battles. All of us know how it feels when we get pulled into the collective consciousness on this planet. Each of us have our own story as it relates to this ongoing struggle, this fight to be free. So a lot of our work has been all about helping all of you to reconnect to who? To you. To the non-physical version of yourself. And we do that in part by sharing free monthly events like this, but also through a variety of online classes, community gatherings, and private sessions, which invite all of you to do something truly profound, to unplug yourself from anything that isn't connected to your own energy. So reclaiming our sovereignty ends up being a really big deal. But trusting that your own energy can now support you, well, that too is huge. Because if we don't, then we're still relying on energies outside of your own in the form of so many relationships we have with other people, which pulls us into making those other people responsible for how we feel about ourselves. So our service is also to gladly share what we consider to be your natural state as a multifaceted, multidimensional being, to hopefully inspire any of you to experience this for yourself. Initially, it helps the mind to label each part that is speaking. But we've discovered that gets kind of exhausting. Speaking for ourselves to acknowledge that Robert, my human part, is now talking, or now it's shifted over to Kethra, my soul, or now it's Michael, my oversoul, talking. So for the most part, when we speak for ourselves as being we, that represents going from declaring I am that I am, to now we are that we are, which includes your human self, includes your soul and your oversoul. So reclaiming your own voice, which is of course the title of today's message, reveals another layer to your freedom. All this plays a vital part in creating a new standard for being human, which is changing the very fabric of this physical reality in a profound and very dramatic way. Let's take a deep breath. As heart-centered beings, we know it's a change that's been long overdue. But it had to start with a few individuals that were willing to reclaim their natural state, one that allows the presence of consciousness and its own unique expression to now play a part in this physical reality, so as to set free our human spirit and to allow it to experience itself as being what? As being divine too. My friends, this represents such an incredible story. And we have to give thanks to beings such as Yeshua and Buddha for helping to lead the way. Humanity has labeled them as being ascended masters. But if they were standing right in front of you as we speak, they see in you what they allowed inside of themselves to come forward. So let's do our best to keep this in perspective. Life on this planet is really intense. Most of us are here for one reason, and one reason only: to reclaim our natural state of being, which is what? A life that is filled with disease, violence, or hatred? I don't think so. That's why it's so hard to be here, right? Our natural state is being sovereign, which is and will always be free. But we also discovered you can't own being sovereign through your mind alone. For it to be real, it's got to come through your heart. So what did we do? A lot of us set our mind free, which allowed our heart to step forward. Now the mind plays a very different role in service to your heart. So heart-centered beings have a tendency to feel everything going on all around you, both from within and what appears to be outside of you. And there's a lot going on at this time, is there not? A lot of movement of a lot of different energies. And because of the value all of you have placed on your own heart, there's a tremendous amount of releasing going on inside of every one of you, unlike anything we have ever seen before, both within your human body, but as well within the body of this planet. It can feel to you to be very unstable. It leaves you feeling ungrounded at times. But what is being released can also manifest itself in what appears to be more control. Just the opposite of freedom. But this is also how your light is impacting this reality. Does it not feel similar in the same way of how it impacted your personal experience throughout your complete awakening process? Your light, as it did to you personally, is exposing everything that is not of this light, not in opposition to the dark, but is consciousness that is now freely expressing itself through energy. Michael perceives our reality much like a train speeding down a track, faster than ever before. It's your light and your energy that is now fueling the engine of that train. But not everyone on this train really wants to return to their natural state. So there's a lot of smoke from so many who have responded to your light by hitting the brakes. So where does this eventually lead us? Looking ahead, does the train eventually derail? Well, that was always a possibility. In fact, there are a lot of psychics that have predicted this to be the end of time, the end of the world that we know it to be. Because the potential for it to manifest as it is right now appeared to be so small that it was hardly recognized. So all of you that are here today can thank yourself for that. But is it really, really possible to create a win-win type of situation here, no matter what your state of consciousness is? Well, from our perspective, indeed it is. From Michael's perspective, by choosing to set our mind free, that freed us from the influence of a fear-based reality. Now we're choosing something different, one that speaks to the sanctity of all life. Michael doesn't see a willingness on your part to filter your light any longer. You've been there. You've done that too many times before. Now, the value you have chosen to place on your own inner reality as being the source for what creates what appears to be outside of you, that value has grown in such a way that for the first time in a very long time, a lot of you are starting to feel that your life has become magical. So of course, now you want more. You're not willing to compromise how good it feels to finally be what? To finally be you as a non-physical soul being who is also having a physical experience as a human being. And this is new, my friends. So this train just keeps flying down the track of life, gaining more and more momentum as it goes, until eventually it no longer can support itself on the only track most of humanity has ever known. So what did you choose to do as a curator of your own experience to ensure that this truly represents a win-win situation for everyone? To ensure that this train can keep moving? What did you do? Well, of course, you created a split in the track. You created a fork in the road. One that allows those who prefer life as it is, and always has been, to continue for as long as anyone wants to keep playing that same old game. Remember, the original gift from the original self, it has no agenda or conditions attached to it. The gift was all about true freedom. The freedom to be heart-centered or not. The freedom to play games with your own energy or not. So for those who prefer a more heart-centered experience, the train that you're riding on begins to change its shape to accommodate the very changes in your own physical body, which has allowed your light body to now coexist. Coexist with what? Not all, but with some of those carbon-based cells. But how does a personal experience, which many have called an enlightened state of being human, how does that impact the current conditions on this planet? Well, for one, it radically changes the relationship we've had with the non-physical realms. For the longest time, inspiration and support came from a variety of non-physical angelic beings, such as Michael, who for the most part only resided off of this planet. Now, because of all of you, they're beginning to merge, blend with your physical experience, your physical body, coexisting with your human self. It's all happening with your light body, now coexisting with some of your carbon-based cells. Some of those cells don't actually fit very well or dance very well with your light. And so they're set free. They're glad to move on to whatever experience is a better match for them. Now it's possible for some of these angelic beings to be here too. So how is this impacting the collective consciousness on this planet? Well, what have you noticed? It's really not new, is it? You've seen this same reaction countless times to anything that doesn't conform to what most people consider to be real. The energies that support mass consciousness, they are once again pushing against the speed of these changes, pushing against new ideas, new ways of being human. For many, they prefer life as it was, and they have as much right to experience that as so many of you who have grown tired and frustrated with the current reality on Earth. A reality that has filtered, restricted, and polarized your own energy. So some of you have naturally asked us, when does this fork in the road appear? When does the split in the track manifest? When does the split of realities take place? And this is where, of course, I gladly turn that over to Michael, who perceives our reality, some would say from a higher perspective, but I just consider it from a different vantage point. So let's take a deep breath here together. Let yourself feel Michael's presence begin to blend and merge with your own if you allow it. As I do the same here, and allowing all the different parts of Michael to be a part of this human experience with me. Indeed, Robert, thank you. Indeed, it is I, Michael. So, this split is happening right now, in this now moment. All of you feel that rather intensely just in your conversations with just about any other human being. You have very little in common, even with those that have been your friends. So this split will continue to grow as your perception of reality grows beyond what is known to your human self, which we perceive will reach a point in just a couple more decades when you no longer are able to perceive the reality you actually birthed yourself into as being real. In the same way that those that prefer to keep things as they have always been don't or won't perceive another reality that speaks to your heart. And for some of you, a few more decades is just too long to wait. We understand. You've tolerated the slowed down version of your energy for a very long time. So some of you might choose to actually use these next few years to ascend from this physical reality, as some before you have too, and to watch the flow of this train from a different vantage point, from the non-physical realms, where the vast majority of all beings in creation already exist, and are watching all of you as we speak. But some of you want to experience and taste it all. You want to experience being human, but in a new way. But it's intense, is it not? It's awkward and uncomfortable at times, adjusting to the light that is you, your light body, when there's all these carbon-based cells that are not comfortable with your light. One that is fueled by your own light and energy. So this, my friends, represents a challenge, but also an incredible opportunity. It represents a collective ascension into another reality, not for every single human being, but for quite a few. Why? Because after all these lifetimes, after all the experiences that represent our cosmic story, that had you feeling disconnected from your natural state, you've come to realize that the story you're now creating for yourself doesn't seem to dance very well with our original story since we left the kingdom together. A story that is supported by relying on energies outside of you to help support your life. Which doesn't mean you can't act as a support to any number of other beings, as I'm doing that right now with Robert. It simply means you no longer need to extract energies from outside of you in order to feel more empowered. That basically is what your religions do. You have come to realize, despite all your efforts, in all of your attempts to make it work, you simply have run out of patience with those that love to play these power games. But you've also come to realize that, like you, the power players have the same right as you to experience life in any way they choose. So you made a bold, bold choice. First, by being on this planet, grounded to this physical body, but not of it, so that you could set them free. What did that change? You no longer feel the need to change their way of being. By confronting them, by engaging them in battle. There are many others that have taken on that cause, but once you set them free, you notice that the part of you that enjoyed playing in those games, there really wasn't a role for that part to play in your news story. You have now given yourself permission to experience your place in all of creation from a place that truly resonates now with your new sovereign heart. And so as to not have to spend any more time doing what? Cleaning up the mess left behind every single time from all those that play these power games, which in turn has given you a lot more time and energy to enhance the value you have now placed on your own life, on your sovereign heart, without being distracted by the game itself. But for that to be real, you also had to be willing to embrace being on this planet, but not of these old games, so that you could leave behind a path. You could leave behind a bridge for others to follow, if they so choose, to hopefully inspire or encourage all of you that are watching this video, that there already exists inside of you a part that is free, a part that is already enlightened, that is already divine. And it's you too. It exists at the core of your own soul and your oversoul. Well, we have heard, like all of you, countless stories that place such a presence far above or beyond this human experience, which validated another belief that such a presence only exists in your imagination. But when you allow this presence to be present, and allowing is the key word here, what your heart has been yearning to experience, now it can. What your mind or if you prefer, your male nature has been searching for, now it shows itself as being real only because you were willing to allow it. Another deep breath. Your oversoul, like myself, is also here. And like myself, it will never push itself into your life. Robert had to allow me to be present. Its respect for you is such that it is unwilling to act on that. But it will respond to your mind if it's now willing to step back. If you're willing to set your mind free, and your heart is also now allowing itself to exist inside of a very vulnerable space, as to allow this divine presence to now be present. And so it is. Freely sharing your own light, passion, and joy for all to experience, but in a new way. Because for the longest time, so many of you were willing to embrace my presence, but not your own. Strange, is that not? And speaking for the oversouls, we do not see ourselves as being higher or grander than any of you. We are you too, but with a different perspective of ourself. As Michael, I introduced this thing called a bridge of light through Robert almost 30 years ago as an opportunity for your human self to experience the presence of your own consciousness. Now, more than ever before, we are witnessing so many of you embracing this with all of your heart. A sovereign heart. It represents something new. It represents a very sacred reunion between those parts of you that have felt lost and those parts of you that already know that they are the original self, but with their own unique name on it. This represents a new standard for being you, supported by a new love for you. Let's take just a moment to feel into that choice. Anyone who's sensitive to energy is feeling the collective radiance of this group here in this now moment, whether that be in the year 2024 or 20 years from now. It is now filled with such an incredible sense of love for self. So again, let's take this moment to allow your own oversoul to share its presence, using the bridge of light, which extends beyond this known physical reality to another realm. All it asks of your human self is to put both feet on the bridge. You don't need to cross it. All you need to do is to receive with all your heart what has always existed on the other side of a polarized, dualistic system of reality. Now it is here to greet you, to embrace your human self as a partner. And then it invites you, human, to now step forward into its presence. And now, perhaps, for the first time, you're no longer feeling alone. Now you have your soul and oversoul with you. Let's breathe with that for a moment. It doesn't have to feel like this intense energy just whop you over the top of your head. It's actually very subtle, is it not? Very refined. Breathe with it. Allow it. It's you too. It took a while for a lot of you before you were willing to accept such a gift, knowing that at least temporarily, such a choice might separate you from others that you care about, that have shared this adventure with you, but more so in the name of survival. But you came to realize that you're not responsible for how or what others have chosen. You realize that you deny your family and friends the same opportunity you're now experiencing if you don't first allow it for yourself as a living example. So where does that leave us? Well, during the next few decades, from our perspective, this train is not going to slow down. No matter how hard this human family pushes back, there simply is too much light on this planet right now. It will inspire the birth of a new way of being human. Some that appear to be, well, foreign to you in your own history as a human species, but it also provides a future for this human family in ways that will allow the human experience to be of service to all of creation, no matter the form of the human body, in ways that will elevate the human experience beyond anything you have ever experienced before, including a conscious partnership with AIs, not just as programmable servants, but as a form of life that has been infused by consciousness. The human experience, despite all of its pain and all the struggles, represents a very unique opportunity. There is no other being than the human being that is more elevated than yourself. Oh, there are other versions that are more evolved than your current one, and a lot of you have discovered these for yourself. You might consider them to be your future self. But in reality, all versions of you exist right here, now, in this moment. So let's take another deep breath, my friends. Right now, we're simply entertaining your mind with some stories to help you let go of some other energies that no longer serve you, that interfere with this reunion that's being offered. Because all of humanity, as all of you have discovered, has been greatly influenced by our cosmic story, influenced by all the players that played a part in that story. But now the story has shifted in such a way that is very unsettling for those that depend or rely on the original story to help support their own perception of reality. But it is only temporary. The speed of the train is necessary to help you leap or ascend into another version of this physical reality. This is not about making some players good and the other players bad. The new story follows a very different perspective. It allows all of creation to be as any being chooses to be. That, in fact, honors the original intention of the original self. No interference. The original self doesn't have any power issues. It doesn't need to dominate or manage its own creation, unlike some of the ways humanity has painted a picture of such a being. Its purity and innocence makes it appear to exist outside of you. And here is the big one. It exists as that right now, inside of every one of you. How do you know that to be real for yourself? We offered the bridge of light, but we have also offered a few insights that actually work just as well, based on the number of people have used one of our suggestions. We've narrowed it down to one, to keep it really simple. So here it is. The presence of the original self will naturally begin to emerge when you do one simple thing. Of course, just stop. That's right. That's all there really is to it. Stop doing life long enough to actually feel or experience the being part of creation. It really is that simple, my friends. So why is it that so hard? Why does it feel so difficult? Because the doing parts of you will make a lot of noise if you do stop. They're making it right now when we invited you to just stop. And you can clearly see a reflection of that perception projected out into your day-to-day reality and calling that real. It supports itself from doing life. We're not suggesting that you just sit on the couch all day long. None of you are going to do that because you have all this creativity that wants to be expressed. But if you did, you might be surprised what you discover about yourself. And you might even experience what we consider to be your natural state, one that naturally feels that all is indeed well. But if you were to embrace that as being real, as being true, what are you going to do with all the drama that is the byproduct of feeling otherwise? Of course, use the 3 A's. Acknowledge them, accept them, and allow yourself to feel the light of your soul. So this represents a new, emerging story. One that has integrated itself into the lives of thousands of human beings as we speak, who are no longer satisfied with doing anything if the presence of their being part isn't a part of that experience. And this is profound. It's having a dynamic impact on the lives of every human being, no matter what their state of consciousness might be. But for those that we serve, it has restored your sense of trust. Not in others, not in institutions, not in your governments, It has restored your sense of trust in you, in yourself. For so many of you, despite your current circumstances, you're now feeling an overwhelming deep sense of calm, unlike anything you've ever felt before. That, my friends, is what we call a drama-free zone. Despite all the changes in the world, despite all the conflicts, despite all the power games that are attempting to manipulate reality to support itself, thousands of human beings have taken ownership of their own inner reality in such a way that their radiance is truly offering something new. And what is that? Of course, to now be you. Let's be real. What's the point of your life if it's not about you as a soul being? And now realizing that being you can never be stolen. It can never be manipulated if you've embraced the sovereign heart, the sovereign mind, and what is becoming a sovereign body. Unless, of course, you choose to allow that. But why would you? Well, that is what we've been working on for the last 3 decades through Ancient Wings. My friends, the opportunity you have dreamt of, yearned for, and shouted to the heavens for, it's now here. So what do? Nothing. You just stop. Take a breath. And start to feel, start to sense. Feel what? Feel all the undercurrents of your doing parts feeling so disconnected from their own counterpart, your being part. And then you accept them just as they are, so as not to get pulled into their own reality. And before you jump back into that compulsion to do something, would now be a good time to allow the presence of your being part to now play a part in whatever you choose to do. That will continue to be our joy, to serve any human being that is awakened to that awareness. So let's bring this session to a close by inviting all of you to once again, with the heart of your soul now present, let yourself feel a deep and sincere love just for you and from you. Not because you should, not because the weight of the future of creation weighs on such a choice, not because your health and well-being are now dependent on that very choice, not because your own abundance hinges on that choice. You now choose to love yourself as being the most lovable being in all of creation. Why? Simply because you like how that feels better than not feeling that way. Not from that part of you that feeds on energies from outside of you, making your life all about me, but from a new part that is indeed stepping forward, one that knows, I am that, I am, but also knows as the voice of your human self, your soul and oversoul, we are that. We are. And so it is, my friends. Yes, the games will continue. The cry for battle will reach an all-time high. It's not something you need to fear, though, or do battle against. The cry for battle is the game itself fighting for its own survival. It needs players to survive. It just got a little greedy. So, there'll be less players playing that game. And some that prefer to experience life without the battle, it's a win-win, right? It's just that they can't coexist any longer on the same playing field. So all of you have elevated your life so as to perceive reality that to you is just as real. Some will see it, others will not. But life continues. And the field that supports your news story is a quasi-physical playground. Welcome home, my friends, to the presence of the kingdom that has always existed inside of you, but now as individuated parts of itself. We look forward to being of service to your newfound joy. Be well, my friends.